Caroline, welcome to the In the Know podcast. Great to see you again today.
Thank you, James. Thank you very much for having me. It's a pleasure and a great opportunity. So thank you very much.
It's a pleasure. So we had a conversation a couple of weeks ago, and we were talking a bit of your backstory, what you're doing in financial planning. Most people listening to this will detect there's an accent as well, so we'll get into your background story shortly. And the topics we're going to be covering is your shift from being an investment banker to financial planner and the differences that you've seen. So you've had a really interesting career, and I think this is a way, and you feel this, that you want to get your message across to people as well, that it can be done. So I'm really looking forward to this conversation. But for the ones, or for the people that don't know you, Caroline, let's just start with a bit of background information on yourself, where you grew up, what you were doing, and how you sort of fell in love with financial planning.
Sure. So my name is Caroline Laudren. I am 38 years old, and I'm going to say my age because I think it's going to help to realize for people some of the points we're going to talk about it. So I'm still young, but I'm also not as young as before. I'm French. I'm from a city called Amiens, but I was born on an island called La Réunion by Mauritius, where I only stayed there for 1 year or two. My brother got born into a really small city in France. I studied business school in a business school in France, in Tours, where I actually studied finance and markets as well. And from there, I had a lot of experience in Paris as an intern. And I also had what we call a VIE, which is a French contract with a French bank that sent me back to New York for like 18 months. So I had 18 months in New York professionally. And then I had to move back from New York. It was really hard to get a reason to stay in terms of admin and also a visa. And we were two at this time. And I started to look for a job in France, but actually France is really, really hard to get a job in that field, in investment banking, when you haven't done a big school. I've done a good school, but not a big school, not the top 3 or top 5. So I started to look for a job, and I was like, England is next door. Let's have a look. I tried my resume, and the bank I was working for offered me a job in London, but I didn't want this. I knew the job, and I wanted another job. So I was lucky. A German bank was looking for exactly the role I wanted, set up something from scratch in Birmingham. Didn't even know where was Birmingham at that point. But here you go. I thought, well, I go there, stay 2 years, and then maybe I move after. 14 years later, I'm still in England, and I still have my French accent, and I'm married to a French guy, and I have 2 babies now, 2 and 3 year old. But I'm not in investment banking anymore. And I did more or less all my investment banking in Birmingham, except the last 6 months, a few years ago, where I went to London, but it was the end. And it's been great, and I know we're going to talk about it. But then I made this change of career because, as we will go further, I wanted to become an independent financial advisor. And today I work for a company called Consequential Planning Limited. I live who has an office in Budley and west side of Birmingham, with 5 advisors and 2 power planners, exactly what I wanted.
So you had an interesting start. So, you moved across in the UK, investment banking, in Birmingham, but you also had an idea of financial planning, because if I remember, your mum was a financial planner. So maybe just talk about that if you can, and the influence that she perhaps had.
So that might surprise you, but she didn't. She didn't have any influence because, and I thought about this question because you actually sent me this one before this morning, and I was like, she hasn't. My mom has always been a bit secret about a job and her work. Not secret, i.e. in purpose, more not talking about it. She actually has a background as a solicitor in France, used to work for many years. And when I became a mom, I even dared to ask her, but were you working, Mom, when we were kids? Because she was always there, and she was working, but she was working when we were either at nursery or at school, but she was always there for us. And she made a change of career. She became a financial advisor, independent as well, with someone for 2 years to learn the job. And actually she set up her own company. So, but except really investing our French money and being someone you could ask any questions about money, she never push me through that. I was doing something really different when I started to be even thinking about working. But she never even said, "Oh, you should look at this job." She never said anything like that. So even if, maybe there is some unconsciousness of the fact that it has infected me. I don't think it did, because for many years, everybody was, when I was going older, James, people were asking me, would you take over your mom's business? And I was like, no, I'm going abroad and I'm going to be an investment banker. So it never occurred in my mind. It's only when I did that change of career almost a year and a half ago that I started to ask her questions like, how did you start? How did you do that? Blah, blah, blah. But otherwise, no. Actually, no.
No, she didn't have an influence. I find that really interesting. So when you look back at your early life and your influences, have you always been interested in financial affairs, money, numbers, etc.?
So until I was probably 13, I was rubbish at mathematics or numbers, let's say. I mean, I have cried many times with my dad going through exercise of, Caroline, there is a full bath. If I remove 1/4 of it, how much is left? I didn't get it. And then one day I had a good teacher. And then it did trigger something. And at this age, it did trigger that numbers was my thing. I went into economics, and then I never left it. I went into taxation, finance through business schools. I did everything with numbers. And I think I never knew what I would do with that, because one of my first professional experience was in retail banking, and I hated it. I hated the way they worked and how we had to sell credit cards to all people who barely could see the numbers, so no one would understand. So it's the business school that opened me to more jobs out there, and I met some teachers who were doing different things and all of that. I will say that my parents we are 4 kids in my family, so I'm the oldest. I think the education we had through monthly pocket money. I have really early had a really expensive hobby, James. I have been a horse rider for more or less 28 years. Yes. So you can tell my parents were not going to buy me a horse if we are 4 kids. And that's actually completely fair, and I'm glad they never did. Yeah. So I had to know, if I wanted to do as much as my friends, I had to find a way to make money. And also, I was also really good at spending this money. So I remember being 15 or 16 and having a little pad, and I would do a lot of babysitting. I was really good into this, and I would do 2 or 3 per week. So I would make good money. But I would spend that money into my horse riding through lessons or competitions. And I remember it was in franc at that time, and I had spent in a year at 15 years old 1.5K French francs into my horse riding passion. So money has always been, actually, without realizing, something I have managed, because I wanted to do something. I wanted to go into my horse, compete those weekends, but I had to pay for it, because we were 4. You can't just, you can't ask your parents for all the time the money, and it was unfair if we had more money. One of us had more money than the other one. So, and they have always been like this. Everything is split in 4. So I do like numbers, and I also been really early in charge of managing my own little money, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I find that interesting as well. So you had quite a good early education about managing your own finances, which we'll talk about what you do as a financial planner shortly. But just going back to the investment banking part of your career. So you did 14 years at an investment bank. Can you remember the time, the day, the period where you thought, I'm looking for a change, I'm looking for something different?
I loved my job. I'm not going to lie. I love the job. I love being an investment banker and fixed income sales. I had such a great time. But it was draining. It was really hard some days, and it was long hours. We were sitting from 7 a.m. to 5:30, 6 p.m., no breaks, no lunch breaks, nothing. But that's normal. So when you are surrounded with people like this, you just think it's normal. COVID was a big eye opener for me, because COVID, they had to give us days to work from home. They had to, and that was the first thing ever for that type of job. And I realized at that time I was sharing my house with a roommate who was a pilot, and obviously he worked a week when COVID started, and then he never worked again. and it just showed me that there was a life outside of work that I wasn't aware, and that people would go for a walk or people would cook for lunch instead of just grabbing a sandwich next door. That life could be a bit more slower paced. And this is when I started to think and be like, even if I love what I do, it's not sustainable. It's too much. Like, I had no time of like even putting a dishwasher on and emptying at a normal time. Everything was after 9 p.m. because I would go to ride my horse or go to the gym, or you have got events, or if I go to London, I think I was starting my day at 5 a.m. and I will end up coming back home at midnight to see clients. That was the last train from to go to Birmingham. It was long days, and I just thought also I was getting to a point where I wanted to think about family, and I always wondered how people do to have a family and doing this job. When I moved to London for 6 months at the end, which might be we speak about it, but I did 6 months again with my team because they in a hedge fund team, and I realized what they were doing. They all had nannies. They all had people who were looking after their kids, and because they had no choice, they had to sustain their lifestyle. They had to work those hours. No one really do part-time. It's really, really rare. There's only a couple of women who are allowed to part-time, and they have to be director. But it's a taboo. It's a subject that even when you speak to your managers, they'd be like, nah, it doesn't really work.
Really? Right.
So I knew I had to make a change. And I knew that, yeah. It is this way. And I know they are trying to change, but there's the will of changing it, and also the fact that they actually can't because they need these people available all the time to answer the phones, the chats, and make money. But that didn't work. I didn't want this. And I was already someone who never wanted to come to London because I didn't want that lifestyle. I didn't want to be paying money to live in a house that I probably couldn't even afford. So I was already a bit different. But the COVID was really good for me. And this is where I started to explore a lot.
So COVID was the eye-opener for you, and you started to explore. And then how did you come to the decision that I want to be a financial planner? What was the process? What was the thought process behind it?
So I wanted to stay in finance because I am passionate about it. Maybe for some people it sounds crazy, but I really love it. I can talk about it all the time. So I needed to find a job that was still with numbers, about finance, but flexible, and also just a different scale where I wouldn't mind to build something, but that would give me still a decent revenue, so I could live still comfortable with that. And I started to look, and financial advisor, fund managers, wealth managers, all those jobs came up. And financial planner was literally the first thing I thought. And this is where I started to link it with my mom. And I said, oh, yeah, my mom was doing this. And she's been always happy. And she was making good money. And she was always, I'm going to ask her questions. So I did ask her question at that time. And then I started to make more research. How can I become one? Is that going to be hard or not? And how do people live? How much do they earn? And I started to connect with some financial advisors in LinkedIn or different places. That's how I started, really.
Because there's a lot of research, there's a lot of evidence, there's a lot of articles that do state it's quite hard to get into the profession. And it's a great profession to be in, but sometimes the opportunities aren't there. And you had to, if I'm correct, you had to self-fund as well, didn't you? You had to do the exams. So what was your process about finding the right opportunity? Did you get qualified? Did you do your RO exams? Did you self-fund it, then apply it? How did you do it? Because I think people listening to this will be interested to know how you actually transitioned and what your process was to do that.
Well, first thing is no one is going to do it for me. So if I want something as a forte, I'm going to have to do it. So yes, I read quickly that I had to pass exams, and I read quickly that there would be a lot more exam behind, that the hours exam were just one step. And since I already passed 2 or 3 more now, But yes, I went solo. I studied my first exam when I was still working in the bank during the evenings and the weekend, and I passed it. And then I passed all my other exams on my first maternity leave. So I more or less I got qualified in 1 year. But it was, I think I do understand what you say, but at the same time, I don't think it's hard. I think people think, oh, it's going to be really complicated, a lot of exam. So our one is hard because it's compliance regulation and it's not really interesting. But really after, if you're a bit into that subject, it's not complicated. There's a lot of companies like BTS who can give you some easier books than the CII to study. I only bought the book from BTS, for example. And I just did it. I was more or less studying 2-3 weeks for each exam, booking my exam and passing it. I didn't fail any of them, which was good. And it was a little price to pay to get where I wanted. And I knew that, 1 year in a lifetime is nothing compared to the change I was going to go to. So I just thought, well, I do it because I don't know. Also, I think you need to know the background is, so the reason why it happened is because in September, almost 3 years ago, the bank decided to make me redundant and my whole team in Birmingham. So that did trigger the whole thing. I was like, although redundancy should be taken personal, when you work somewhere for 10 years and in 20 minutes your life is changed and you have nothing left really. It's like, and in banking it's really harsh. It's like 20 minutes done, your computer shout, you are out.
That's
and
harsh.
I was just like, well, I've been ready for that. And yeah, it's the industry. You get well paid, but we say goodbye to you really quickly. It's a game. Once you know the game, it's part of it. But still, it's really hard to take it. And initially, obviously, the first thing you do is you need to look for a job. And at that time, personally, I was 3 months pregnant. They didn't know. It's not their fault. I was buying a house. And honestly, it was really not a good time. But they always wanted me to go in London. So I did ask about a job in London, which they gave me 2 weeks after. And I'm sorry about Dutch Bank people who's going to listen to it. And then I waited. I waited for the last moment to tell them I was pregnant. But me, I already had made my choice. I knew when I went in London, I knew it wasn't what I wanted. The job was still good and was still high pace, and I know I was good at it and I could fit. But the lifestyle around it, the cost of living in London is unbelievable. I think people don't understand that the difference of lifestyle you can have if you live outside of that. So the redundancy, even if I went to London for a while and then I went for my maternity leave with the bank, was the trigger. And I passed my exam that month, January, just after. And then for a year, I kept going for another year. And I never went back to the bank because personally, we wanted a second baby, James, and professionally, it didn't make sense for me to go to London for a few months and get pregnant. So I kind of took the hit of having a really, really quick second baby. We were lucky. The first one was a good sleeper. So it does motivate you to do the second one quicker. Yeah. The second didn't sleep well.
It's always the way, isn't it? Yeah, that's a surprise.
Yeah. And I'm glad I did all my exam during the first maternity leave because one baby is easier. A second baby, passing my exam was going to be almost impossible. All I did was networking a little just before my second baby. I went to networking event and I met, for example, St. James Place, 8 months pregnant. And I had a lot of meetings through that. But yeah, the trigger was redundancy. And then from then I never looked back because I knew I had to get out of... there was no other jobs like this. That's also the point, James. My job that I was doing, it's usually only on those big cities, like what I've done, Paris, New York, London, all of that. Birmingham was an exception. There was no other team I could try to apply to that doesn't work this way. So I knew it was the end if I wanted something new.
Yeah, you probably felt that your time was up in that part of your journey anyway. And you've obviously now transitioned to financial planning. And how have you found that transition where you've been dealing with institutional money and now you're dealing with private wealth, but dealing with individuals? How have you found that transition? What's been the challenge? What's been the most interesting part of that move?
So I have to say, and I think that's what the key of the part of all those other questions is the support you get into the company you join. And me, that's the only advice my mom gave me is make sure that you will get the support. Because actually my parents were a bit scared for me to just go from a really high earner job to go self-employed into something completely new without even a client base, nothing. But I had the finance to do that. So I was like, yeah, that's okay. I think I can do it. And I'm Consequential Planning Limited is owned by David Firens. And David was someone I met over coffee after a week because he had put a job. And he met me, we went through chit chat, but it was really personal. I am not really professional. And really quickly said, look, I would love you to join. And I was like, okay, is that almost an offer? I'm like, oh yeah. And I was like, all right, but I'm talking with other companies and all of that. So I need a bit of time. It's like, take as much time you want. The only thing I ask him is, I want to make sure you will support me in a way, like if I need help, I can pick the phone and call you. And he always said, I would. And more than a year by, that's still what he does. He still helps me whenever I need. And that's what has been a massive help, into me coming into that transition. The money, I don't want to sound weird, but a number is a number. If you are managing, if someone has 20K, someone has 1 million, someone has 500K, I see it as a number and I see it as almost the same thing. Problematics are different if you have 1 million and you have only 20K, so then there's new subject, you can talk about it, but I see the individual being the same if they have 20K or they have 1 million. It doesn't change for me. Before being taking care of institutional clients and maybe trading small tickets was 2 million, and the big tickets was, derivatives 100 million. It's just numbers, it's just zeros, and it's sad, but that's what screen do. They make you realize it's just a number on a screen. The job, though, or as a financial planner, advisor, is the impact of the people you can make. And when they are telling you those numbers and how proud they are or how they are not or how they are lost with it. And this makes the numbers a bit more in perspective than what I used to do, because before that was not really their money. I was managing people's pension money almost, or helping them to be managed, I should say. So it's really different now. It's the money people have worked for or have inherited or whatever is coming from that I'm helping with. And that makes a big difference.
Yeah, we'll talk more about that. But just going back to when you took the opportunity, you met David. You obviously looked at other academies as well, some of the bigger firms, and they would have different offerings. Was it the support that was on offer from David that sort of swayed it? Was it instinct? Was it just the feeling that this was the right home for you? Because I'm always interested from a recruitment background, why people make the decisions to go to certain places.
No, it was personal choice. I have to say, Quillet, for example, and SGP, brilliant academy. They give you the support. They give you so much to be able to get there. There's a bit of a cost for you to repay at some point, or all of that, also Quillet now. But I really wanted to be independent. And although when I was doing all those chat, I kind of lost, when I was networking, I lost a bit of the direction at some point, because I was talking with those big ones, which I was so comfortable with, because I've only worked with big banks, French, German, UK. So I was really comfortable with them. So it felt quite familiar and it felt really easy to be with them. And, I remember SGP telling me, we do those big events in London where you can come. We do those big rewards. And then I went home and I was like, right, Carol, but this is exactly what you are living and this is exactly what you want to live. I didn't want this anymore. I've done the big corporate. So this is personal, right? I've done the big corporate. I've done the big management. I've done the without you any, once you are a part of those big companies, whatever you say, there's pressure either through the numbers, but pressure also of fitting into a window. There's some companies will say, we don't let people working from home. Well, why not? It works. If people are good and are independent and they can manage it, I don't see the problem. The banks wouldn't do that. They took working from home, they took it away, straight away from trading and sales. Even if just one day everything was taken away. It was only the big guys, the managers, who could have maybe one day, admin day, but you couldn't trade, you couldn't do client talks when you were working from home. So working from home got taken from me really quickly. So I had to take a step back and be like, this is actually not what I want. Although it seems easy, and obviously they were keen. Consequential Planning Limited posted a job offer out of the blue on a Sunday, and I remember I was in my bed looking for a job really, and I was just like, oh, this is great. It's like 20 minutes from my house. This is exactly what I want. It's medium-sized company. These few advisors, a lot of experience from them. I applied. I got a message the same day, got a call the next day. And you know what? It just felt easy. But all of this is because of David. If the office was not clean, was not really even, he's going to smile if he listens to that, but the office was not really nice. And we really, we fully refurbed it since I joined, because I was like, we can't have clients in this office. They were they are a successful company, but they were just men who were just managing money, and I was just like, can we do a bit more?
It's a typical man thing, isn't it? Yeah.
It is, and one of my colleagues had been asking for a long time, and I more or less asked for it with a budget, and got done, and it's beautiful now. But I went for David. Who just made me at ease, explained to me where I was going. There was no hidden conversation. It was really transparent from how it would work, how does he think I will leverage my network, did he think I would grow, and all of that. I went for David, but I also think I was ready for that. But yeah. At the end, I knew I didn't want a big group.
Yeah, you've done the corporate, you've done the events, and this was more of a smaller type business, and the support was really important. So let me take you back now, because when you joined them, this will be interesting to people. How have you gone about to grow your business? Because you've taken the risk, you've joined the company, self-employed, you've got to go out there and prospect and meet people and network. I think that's something that can put a lot of people off in the profession. So how did you do it?
Yeah, honestly, I start from scratch. I had no clients. And just also, SGP was the person I met in SGP. He's the person who made me realize that I could do it. He was the one who said, why are you thinking? I was thinking employed, self-employed also at that time. And it's like, you can do self-employed. You're going to have a 1 year where you're going to have to work hard. I think it's a bit more than 1 year, to be honest. But you can make it work. And he just explained to me why. So it did help me to take my decisions. But anyway, grow a business from zero. Consequential gets leads from the company itself. And what we do is we share those leads on a rotation basis. So we are 5, one gets a lead, and you split it. I joined a couple of networking, but honestly, I only stick to one. It's called Womanhood Community Networking. And that was the best thing. And you're going to smile because you say, oh, it's a woman group. In some ways, it's mainly a woman group, but it's open to any people. Why did I do this? I was living in Birmingham, moved to a city called Worcester. All the friends I had from Worcester were either my husband's friends, which were my really good friends as well, by the way, but also my mom's friends. But I didn't have any professional links. I didn't have any professional people yet because they were in Birmingham. So I needed to build this into Worcester. So I joined this couple of networking groups, but mostly that one. And really quickly, I realized that, that came from advice from my colleagues. I needed to connect with a solicitor and an accountant. And I did. And I got lucky because a solicitor was really easy, living in Worcester, and an accountant was looking for a new IFA to work with. And it's her and her husband, and they are really a successful business. And they gave me leads 2 months after I started to speak with them. And I would say every month they gave me 2 to 3 to 4 leads, depends, but they are little recurring leads accounts. And then obviously the people around me that I knew, my net worth really did wake up after a few months. But also the big thing that David did for me is he sponsored me. He paid for 6 months of unbiased leads that were whatever I wanted. If I thought that was good, he was paying for it. So for 6 months, he paid for all those unbiased leads, and I worked with it, and I dealt like if I was paying with it. But that started to build me a bit of clients and conversation. And honestly, that's how it happened. Even back in February, I think I signed up with a client that I spoke only in August. Sometimes people needs time, but all David put in place for me to happen, that's how it still happens. So all those little things have helped me to do this. I wasn't really into social media, and I only started honestly 6 weeks ago to be a bit more active in it, because I'm still finding my fit. But I have to say, for anyone who starts, it does work. I get so my networking group probably brings me 1 or 2 or 3 leads per month as well. I get recommended a lot. LinkedIn brings me 1, 2, 3 leads also per month. So that's how it works. And clients, obviously, which I've been really surprised how quickly it goes, because even after 6 months, I started to be recommended. So now my pipeline, when I look at my Excel, is really healthy, and it's just growing. I've got some bigger case, I've got smaller case. We don't have minimum assets, which I love. I really cared about that as well. Independent, no minimum assets. Yes, a small case take as much time as some of those medium case, for example, but it's rewarding, because even if you just open a stock in Chariza for a client who has never invested, you are setting up in the right direction for later. So I love that. But yeah, that's how I grow the business. Networking, connecting with professional people, accountants and solicitor, support from my company who also give us leads, and also unbiased. Nothing wrong with unbiased. You have to be picky. It's always, sometimes it just doesn't work. So my aim is to not use it too much, but this month I bought 1 lead.
Wow. Okay. So there's been multiple avenues where you've been able to generate leads, networking, and
I forgot to vouch for. Sorry, James.
Vouch for as well. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
And is there a particular area of financial planning that you specialize? Do you specialize mainly with women, or is it sort of broader demographic than that? And is it just you are focused on different areas?
So I found myself having mainly done savings, investment, and pension. I have touched different other subjects. So I have got an equity release case this next week. I've done a bit of a long-term care case with the clients, older client. I do a lot of protection with business owners, but also just normal people who tell me they don't have life insurance or they want to look at inheritance. I haven't done, for example, a lot of IHT yet. But this is what I've been focusing. What I've found is that I have really 2 buckets of clients. I have those one between 30 and 40s, and the one who are between 50 and, let's say, either wants to retire soon or are retiring. Yeah. Really, that's where I have the first sweet spot is quite big, and I think this is a background of what I've done that is helping for investments, and also the fact that I am their age, and also a lot of women have been approaching me to start investing. Some of them because they have been saving a lot of cash across. A lot of women have a high salary, and sometimes they just put it in savings and they don't really know what to do. And they are sometimes really proud to tell me, yes, into a cash ISA. And I'm like, yeah, let's do a bit more now. And I explain to them what's the key. And I have no issues to use my personal financial situation to explain to them that that's how I've made this work. You never know how things will perform. You never know how the market's going to happen. But for sure, starting and doing it is better than not doing it. So I find I have quite a lot of women, especially in the 30, 40s bucket. And then after, it's quite mixed. But I like to do good fact find. So and that's what is linked to my job. My job really was always like, my previous job was always like this. If you were talking to a fund manager, you wanted to understand what he was trading, from bonds to, UK bonds to local currency bonds in India or anything. You wanted a full fact find. And that's what I do with all the clients. I ask all the questions across saving, pension, protection, but also children. Do you invest for your children? Or you've got a limited company. Do you do this under your... So I love the fact find. I love the first meeting is my favorite, to be honest.
And what's been the biggest challenge to transition from corporate life into a financial planner?
So let's be honest, when you earn 6 digits per year and you have no income the first month, you're like, oh, that's weird.
That's a surprise, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's a surprise. That just doesn't come. No, I can't just maybe take 10 minutes and look at a website. No. I have to use my time properly. And also, my time is really little, James. So I've got kids at nursery. And, as parents all do know, there is a cost with nursery. So they go to 8 to 4. And I have to say, 8 to 4 goes like this. And they don't even go every day. So I don't work Wednesdays and I don't work Friday afternoon. So I have 3 days and a half to make money, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So one of the challenges is really to realize that if I don't bring some clients and deals, there's no money coming into my bank account at some point. Finding my space, finding my new identity for sure. I mean, and also this new freedom. I had to learn to do this for a little while, which it didn't take me long, but it took me a little while to realize that it was not going to be my normality now. And one another challenge really of the job, I find it's the admin. The admin link to this job is a killer.
Okay.
And we have paraplanners, by the way. They do help us for a lot of things, but still, we just recently started to use some AI for the meetings. So now, even if I still use my pen and my paper because people like it, I always ask, obviously, and I record the meetings. And this app make a summary of either the fact find or the meeting, whatever we are doing. Save me half an hour, honestly, because before I was putting this into our system. But also, each time you sign up a client, you've got all those papers to print, all those papers to sign, and send it to provider. The admin of one meeting is 1 hour behind, I find. And when you sign up a client, it's at least an hour and a half. And I find this is... my time could be used a lot differently if I'm honest. It's not an issue, but the job as a financial advisor planner, I don't think still has a good picture. It's still seen as only for really wealthy people. It has a stereotype of a 50-year-old white man. One day a client told me I was wearing, I remember, a leopard jacket, a really simple French leopard jacket, I would say, but British girl would wear it. And I remember coming in the house, starting to talk, and after half an hour, I was like, you are everything but nothing I was expecting from a financial advisor. And I'm like, it's a good thing, right? And he said, it's a really good thing. And I think this image of the financial advisor needs to be changed. And whenever I talk to any prospect, lead, whoever, I always say, it's free to talk to a financial advisor. So you should tell to anyone to speak with someone, because the tips, the knowledge you're going to get out of this first meeting, even if it goes nowhere, if I've done my job properly, they will recommend me anywhere. So I don't mind to do this. But people always think it's going to be really expensive and they don't even know what they're going to get out of it. So the job itself is fighting against itself because of the reputation it has, because of past things that happened. And I personally have had to work a lot on this. I'm a woman, and which is never a problem, by the way, but you can be a financial advisor and just be a normal person and also not be the stereotype of them.
I'm interested. I'll sort of pick up on that, if I may, because you've come from a different sector, if you like, or same sector, but or corporate investment banking. What was your perception before you got into the profession about a financial advisor, and is it the same perception that you hold now?
It's a good question. I've met once with a financial advisor because I was looking at. So have in mind that I am French, and obviously I didn't have although I don't think it's a lot, but I didn't have the education of state pension, maybe taxation, and any of that. The only reason why I learned about it on the personal basis is because once you start to earn a bit of money, you quickly understand that there is ways for you to be a bit more tax efficient. And also, I've always invested in some ways, either in France or before, so I needed to find a way to invest. I like properties. I always bought a house, did a bit of buy-to-let. So by curiosity, I've learned a lot through my personal wish and also situation. But when I met those financial advisors, I remember small meeting room, 2 men, 50-year-old white men. They did a nice presentation of what would be my option. And at that time, it was really VCT and EIS because I was a really high taxpayer and I had done already everything. But more or less, they were not really friendly. I could tell I was probably boring them a bit and probably not big enough for them as well. I just came out like, okay, well, that's what to do. Yeah. I also knew what my mom was doing still, though. So I never used a financial advisor, and I've never said to anyone before, use a financial advisor. But the fact that I am in the sector probably has been helping me to not use one. And since I started, I've fully changed about this because I didn't realize how sometimes little people knew about their finances. How little they knew about what they could do to just make their life easier from now, but even in 5 or 10 years. I completely underestimated the people's knowledge about financial, about taxation, about pensions, about all of that. And by this, that made me even more want to share the knowledge, the education. I found that some of my meetings sometime, and I have done a couple of meetings where nothing happened after. Of course, and it's good, but they always recommended me. But the knowledge has to be shared, and you don't know what you don't know. So for them, there's no way for them to grow until they speak to someone like me and anyone in the financial planning. So we need to open our doors to people and be like, yes, please come around. You don't need to have 50K. You just need to have a bit of, or even 200K or 500K, 1 million, to be honest. Also, there's a bit of basics that people need to know. Even teachers. I get a lot of teachers lately who don't even understand the pension. And actually, teachers are quite well set. They've got a nice salary. They've got a pension that's going to work out really well for them. And they end up being the one who do a stock and share either. And their parents have a different background and they recommend you to their parents. So, but yes, I think I've changed. I think people should talk to a financial advisor.
So your perception has changed anyway, from your own experience of meeting a financial advisor to obviously what you do now. What would you say, Caroline, is the most fulfilling part of the job that you do?
Oh, the impact I do on people's life. There's nothing more rewarding, and I hear it quite a lot, of someone who says to me, oh, I wish I've met you before. That's... For me, it probably means I've done most of the part of the job. And I always say don't regret because you didn't know. But I always end up saying, like, if you have kids, tell them tell them what you've learned now. But also, if you know anyone who probably could use any advice or meeting, just tell them to contact me. But yeah, the impact on people is amazing. Like, sometimes you make them save a lot of money. Sometimes you just start to make them... you help them to make money outside of their normal job, because by investing, the market has been good, whatever people say. There's so much wealth out there, when Trump's talk, yes, it goes down, but you know what happened 2 months ago? It went down just 8%, and now everything, if you have a good fund, if you have a good investment, everything's back up and even more. So it is good to invest, and that's the only way to make your money work anyway. And I really think that's the best reward of that job is the impact you do for people, how you can help them to have sometimes really stressful situations or just stressful question. I've met couples they come to me with a 500K pot and don't think they can retire. And I'm like, all right, let's go back to basics. How much you need, what you're saving, all of that. And at the end, the answer after doing my research is that you can retire now. And I've had so many cases in the past 6 months of, we are retiring now, Caroline. Or, I always say retirement is not just stop working. Retirement is being picky. Be picky of what you want to do now with your time, because life is short. This is also what you learn with a job is you see the good thing, but you see also the bad things. And I have found a bit harder lately. Well, not lately, but I was speaking to a gentleman who had a brainstem stroke and more or less died at 53. Put things into perspective, personally. And now I tell people, just enjoy life as well. I'm a big believer in saving and investing, but I also believe in spending, because you never know what's going to be done with tomorrow. So all we can do is to plan for tomorrow, but we can also enjoy today. From 1 year ago and now, that's also how I've changed my speech, because I've seen life events happening more. And I'm like, don't forget to live. It's good to save money. It's good to be tax efficient. But if you want to go on holidays tomorrow and you can afford it, just go for it.
I just want to pick up on the cultural differences, Caroline. Britain, France. Are we very similar culturally in terms of talking about money? Because you've mentioned a lot through this conversation about the impact that you have, and sometimes it's the basic things that people don't understand, just basic investments, the power of the growth. Is it the same in France as it is in the UK?
No, it's not. It's not the same, but it's really different also. Our lack of education, in some ways, similar. In France, except if you are in this area, or you are interested by it, the lack of education is as big as in England. It's funny because we always say British people are not. They don't like to talk about their personal life. I don't think it's true. Mm. The difference is you have to ask a direct question. So French people are really direct. So, if I want to know something, James, I'm just going to ask you. I'm not going to turn around different corners to get to my questions. I'm just going to say, okay, how much are you earning today? And actually, I think that's what people like. British people like direct questions, because they're a bit tired with being fussy around subjects. And French people don't like to talk about money. They are really protective. It's almost a shame to make money in France, which I find always sad, where
really?
Compare here, it's not a shame. You're making money, it's no problem. You have a nice car, no one is going to judge you. In France, you will be judged. And there's there's an image of wealth that is not accepted and honestly is criticized for the wrong reasons in France that you don't find here. But people are more open-minded here, generally speaking. Let's just compare how we dress in England compared to France. In England, you wear what you want, There's no issues to wear socks with Crocs. You do what you want. No one's going to say anything. You do that in France, someone in the street is like, well, that looks bad. Typical. Wow. Yes. I think there's also a similar situation. There's a gap of financial advisor in France and in England. In France, there is a lot of new masters with university about financial planning that has opened in the past 5-7 years. Compared to here, I think we are a bit behind in the UK. And it's really funny because in England, state pension is one thing. So you're going to get state pension, you know how much it's going to be, and you know that if you want to have a better retirement, you have to do something about it. In France, it's really different in retirement. You contribute to your pension, and more or less how much you contribute is managed by the government, and all the years you've made, and depending on your profession, is how much you're going to get. You can get an estimate. But it's only in the past 10 years that people have realized, because there's less active people contributing into the national pension, so pensions are getting lower, less people contributing, more people using it. So even if you work hard now, you don't get the same pension as you used to. So people have started to do what we have here with a defined contribution pension, putting money into a personal pension, which is honestly really, really new. So for the first time, people have to think a bit more of that in France. They have to think about, saving money for this compared to before, never. Something other similar is the fact that business owners here are really active with financial advisors, I think, in both countries for protection.
Yeah.
It's a way to do it, is how to protect the business, to protect the directors, to protect even the family or the assets. In both countries, this is a big, I would say, area where you can, as a financial advisor, you can excel. And since I've started, so I don't have a lot of years to talk about it, but for sure, when I look at the set of my clients, there's definitely a need and a wish of empowerment wanted by the 30 to 40s. That is in England, but it's also in France. You will say probably it's because I see that with my friend, or probably it's because you are some ways influencing them, maybe. And I am trying to. I'm always telling my girlfriends or even boyfriends, like, guys, are you investing? What are you using? It's called a PEA in France. It's like an ISA here. Are you using that? Or even my sister, to be honest. And a lot of people are not aware of it. So I always say, why don't you talk to a financial advisor in France? My mom, when she sold her company, she sold it to a good friend of my brother. I know him really well, the manager of your money in France. And I always say, look, if you need a French contact, use that guy. And yeah, I think the difference is there. It's in England, there is no surprise. State pension is coming for retirement to you, but you shouldn't just think that's going to be enough. In France, it's a new mindset that has changed. So it has slowly pushed people to look at it a bit more and be aware of it.
You made some really interesting points there. I really like the fact that you mentioned that British people like direct questions, because we do have a habit of asking questions in the most diplomatic and roundabout way. It goes on and on and on, and sometimes I catch myself doing it, and you just think, to tell me about your earnings. What are you earning? Rather than saying, well, tell me if you don't mind, if you can give me an idea. It's like, just get to the point. We seem to, but it is quite refreshing when somebody does ask you a question, because it prompts you to give you an answer. And the other bit I found really interesting in your answer just then was how wealth is perceived in France rather than the UK. I found that really interesting. And socks with Crocs. What happened? I mean, my daughter's wearing socks with Crocs. I was on a holiday last week and I was thinking, what are you wearing? What are you? And I'm not French, obviously, but it was like, this is a fashion faux pas.
No, I mean, sometimes the fashion of British people is not seen, but personally, I love it. And I love that people just assume their bodies and wear whatever they want. It always shocks my French friend when they come here and like, do you see what you just wear or what you wear? And I was like, yeah, he does what he wants. But to come back on the question, don't you think we start doing this fake questioning and wrongly way of asking is at the moment you start, how are you today? Because I find that people ask it, but actually don't mean it, because it's just like, how are you today? And they walk away, don't listen to your answer. Yeah. So me, I don't even ask if I don't want to know. I'm just like, hey, and that's it. But if I want to know, I sit and I look at the eyes. I'm like, how are you today? I really mean it. I want to know. But this is a different culture, because it's normal here to do that. The number of my English girlfriends, when we go for a party or we have an apéro, I love an apéro, nibbles and drinks, and we chit chat about subject, and they're like, yeah, I'm good. And they just talk to this, you could ask all my friends, they talk to this superficial subject and they don't go deep. So for me, there's no way to know them really how they are. And I don't need to do it anymore, because they know. And now they are a lot more actually open about it. And I said to them, look, I don't understand. Are you well or not? Or how is work? Like proper questions about some subject. And even in friendship, I find they actually really appreciate that, because I don't want to be just a random person. If I am your friend, I want to be here when you are okay, but also when you're not okay. And you don't need to hide it. And I find that British people are really good at hiding those feelings sometimes compared to French people. We are loud, French people. When we are not happy, we go in the street. When we are not happy, we just talk about it. But we don't do it here. We don't do it too much.
No, we're very superficial, and you're right. I mean, it's the English pleasantry. How are you? But many times you're not interested. You're just saying it because it's the done thing. But actually, I think that's a superpower of a financial advisor anyway, to get or peel away the layers of what's really happening with somebody and their relationship with money and what they actually want to achieve out of life, rather than, well, here's a product, so this is what you need, and that's the product to serve that need. I think the power of an advisor, similar with regards to your first experience, it was very much sort of factual. Now it's a case of getting deeper and having more perspective and understanding. And it's the behavioral finance, I think, now is where the power sort of lies, and getting people to open up, because I don't think we're particularly great at opening up sometimes, certainly with money, some of us.
Yeah, but I think and you're right, but I think that's where, once you start to take the step to speak to a financial advisor, if that financial advisor is good enough to ask you those questions, there is no way around it. I have no issues to tell a client that I can't actually do my job if you don't tell me this. And it has happened, not many times, but maybe once or twice, where I was like, why do you need to know this? Because I need the global picture. I can't produce a cash flow if you don't tell me how much you need per month, or because you don't know actually how much you need per month, or because you don't know even how you contribute into pension. And to be fair, for me, it's just to make them understand the impact of not doing this or doing this. But you can't do the job properly anyway if you don't get all the points. So I find that it's quite good. Question. But at the end, everybody open up. So it always works.
And it should do. We're coming up to the top of the hour. The question I've got now is, I guess, your top tips for somebody listening to this. So somebody who's maybe a career changer, who's looking at financial planning as a profession that they are keen on. What are your top tips? What are your advice to those people?
First, I would say don't dismiss those big companies I have personally dismissed. I'm not saying they're not good. I think they are good. They were not for me. But they have a lot of support and they will help you. You do need to have a bit of financial savings to get you through the first year. That's for sure. Because if you are self-employed, employed different, but if you are self-employed, there will be months where you're going to maybe only have £1,000 or just a bit of money to live. So you need to have a bit of the savings to back you up behind, depending on how much you need per month to be happy, obviously. After, it's a mindset. You are growing a business. You are growing a new career for you. It takes time. It doesn't happen overnight. Even me, sometimes I'm like, this is slow. People are not taking decisions. And then I just remind myself, like, it's fine. I've done all of this in 1 year. I barely need this now. And I know this is coming up. So you need to be patient and to agree that it will take a little while and probably not as quick as you want. There will be so many wins, but there will be also some moments where you're like, that's hard. A client who don't answer to you, someone who doesn't want to work with you for any reasons, because, I had different excuses, but one is real. I didn't have an office in Worcester. Second one was because I was a woman, but also sometimes men get this because they are not a woman. So, it will never be one side or the other. If you believe that you need to be passionate. If you are passionate into it, it will work out. Just get surrounded by the right people. I think that's my top tips, is be able to give yourself a bit of space financially before, to have the savings to allow you to do that career change, because it's important. But more also, secondly, is to believe in it and to be passionate about subjects. Things would just follow. Make the right connections.
Yeah, it always helps if you're passionate about something, gives you purpose, you're aligned. It's all as one, isn't it? Before I ask my final question, Caroline, is there anything else that you wanted to share or impart any knowledge to the listeners?
I don't know who's going to listen to us, but I would say one thing I have been surprised about in terms of product and all of that is ISA, how underestimated and how unused it is by most people. And I would say just try to understand what's an ISA and the benefits of it versus a pension and all of that, because although it's great to put into a pension, it's tax efficient. Don't forget that ISA are tax-free interest. And when you do retirement planning, there will be taxes. And when you start to earn your state pension, your tax allowance is going to be used. So whatever you're going to draw down on top of that is going to be taxed. So and having an ISA is amazing. Don't be scared about investing. Investing it will become natural once you speak with the right person. Just don't wait for tomorrow. Just start now. Even if it's just 10 quid a week to a 100 plan, it doesn't matter. It's just do it. You're going to help yourself by doing things now. And then for my colleagues or professional fellows, I'm loving the community. I'm quite impressed by the help you get from different advisors, either online or through the social media. It's been a really nice community to enter and be part of. And more importantly, James, how are you today?
I'm very well. Yeah, that's great. That's a great ending to that. And I think you are right. It is a great profession to join. It really is. I think it's got so many. It's underutilized in so many ways, but it can benefit so many people. And this has been a great conversation because you've career changed, you've done it, but you have the drive and the ambition to do it, and it's a passion of yours. So it's living proof it can be done. So thank you very much for your time today. I've got one final question, which I ask most of my guests. And this is my magic wand question. So I'm going to give you a magic wand, and this magic wand has one wish, and you can wish for anything. What would you wish for and why?
It can be personal, professional, anything?
Anything.
Money don't buy good health. That's what I've learned. And money don't buy happiness. It contributes to it. I would love to win a lot of money. Honestly, lately I've had back issues, which has driven some pain, and I'm now out of it. And I just became back thankful of my body. And, it's just a little, if I had one wish, is I just want to stay healthy and be happy like this, because that's more important than anything else, to be honest. The health. And also, a good health. No more pain.
No
and
more
just
pain.
the body keeps going how it is.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that's a very good answer.
Sorry, I don't know if that was what you expected, but personally, that's what I just came out.
I think it's one of those questions I like to ask because, people say all sorts of different things, and I think health is hugely important. If you don't have your health, what can you do anyway? Yeah. And sadly, we don't really focus on our physical health and our mental health as much as we should do. You need healthy mind, healthy body.
No, short of time.
Yeah, this is it. Yeah, short of time. We need a financial plan to give us more time. Caroline, thank you very much for today. You've been a brilliant guest. We've covered a range of topics, and you've been a delight to speak to. Thank you very much.
Well, James, thank you very much for talking to me and the opportunity. It's been great. Really, thank you.
Pleasure.